Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mataji, can you put it a bit more down, please? English. Maitreya Uvacha Satsevani Yobata Puruvamsho Yallokapalo Bhagavat Pradhanaha Babhuvitheha Jita Kirtimalam Pade Pade Nutanna Yasya Bhikshanam.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. The great sage Maitreya Muni said to Vidura, "The royal dynasty of King Puru is worthy to serve the pure devotees because all the descendants of that family are devoted to the personality of Godhead. You are also born in that family, and it is wonderful that because of your attempt, the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are becoming nearer and nearer at every moment."
Soham Ranam Shula Sukhaya Dukkham Mahadgatanam Viramaya Tasya Pravartaye Bhagavatam Puranam Yadaha Sakshat Bhagavan Rishibhyaha.
Let me now begin speaking on the Bhagavata Purana, which was directly spoken to the great sages by the personality of Godhead for the benefit of those who are entangled in extreme miseries for the sake of very little pleasure.
Ashinamurvyam Bhagavantamadhyam Sankarshanam Devamakuntha Sattvam Pivitsavastattvamata Parasya Kumara Mukhya Munayo Anvapruchan.
Some time ago, being inquisitive to know, Sanat Kumar, the chief of the boy stands, accompanied by other great sages, inquired exactly like you about the truths regarding Vasudev, the Supreme, from Lord Sankarsana, who is seated at the bottom of the universe.
Swamevadhishyam bahunamanayantam Yadvasudeva bhidhamama amananti Pratyagdhritak sambuja koshamishad Unmilayantam vibodhoidodayaya.
At that time, Lord Sankarsana was meditating upon his Supreme Lord, whom the learned esteem as Lord Vasudev, and for the sake of this advancement of the great learned sages, he slightly opened his lotus-like eyes and began to speak.
Swardhunyudardreihi swajata-kalaper upasprishantascharanopadhanam Padmam yadarchantyahi rajakanyaha Sapremanana balibirvararthaha.
The sages came from the highest planets down to the lower region through the waters of the Ganges, and therefore the hair on their heads was wet. They touched the lotus feet of the Lord, which are worshipped with various paraphernalia by the daughters of the Serpent King when they desire good husbands.
Muhurgrinanto vachasanuraga Skhalat padenasya kritani tajkyaha Kirita sahasramani praveka Pradyotito dama fana sahasram.
The four Kumaras, headed by Sanat Kumar, who all knew the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, glorified the Lord in rhythmic essence with selected words full of affection and love. At that time, Lord Sankarsana, with his thousands of raised hoods, began to radiate an effulgence from the glowing stones on his head.
प्रोक्तं किलैतद्भगवत्तमेन निवृत्तिधर्माभिरताय तेन सनत्कुमाराय स चाह पृष्टः साङ्ख्यायनायाङ्गधृतव्रताय.
Lord Sankarsana thus spoke the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam to the great sage Sanat Kumar, who had already taken the vow of renunciation. Sanat Kumar also, in his turn, when inquired of by Sankhyapayana Muni, explained Srimad Bhagavatam as he had heard it from Sankarsana.
साङ्ख्यायनपारमहंस्यमुख्यो विवक्षमानो भगवद्विभूतिः जगादसोऽस्मद्गुरवे अन्विताय पराशरायाथ बृहस्पतिश्च.
The great sage Sankhya-yana was the chief amongst the transcendentalists, and when he was describing the glories of the Lord in terms of Srimad Bhagavatam, it so happened that my spiritual master, Parashara, and Brihaspati both heard him.
उवाच मह्यं सदयालुरुक्तो मुनिः पुलस्त्येन पुराणमाद्यं सोऽहं तवैतत् कथयामि वत्स श्रद्धालवे नित्यमनुव्रताय.
The great sage Parashara, as aforementioned, being so advised by the great sage Pulastya, spoke unto me the foremost of the Puranas, Bhagavatam. I shall also describe this before you, my dear son, in terms of my hearing, because you are always my faithful follower.
उदाप्लुतं विश्वमिदं तदासीद् यन्निद्रायामिलितदृण्यमीलयत् महीन्द्रतल्पे तिशयान एकः कृताक्षणः स्वात्मरतो निरीहः.
At that time, when the three worlds were submerged in water, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu was alone, lying on his bedstead, the great snake Ananta, and although he appeared to be in slumber in his own internal potency, free from the action of the external energy, his eyes were not completely closed.
सोऽन्तशरीरे अर्पिता भूतसूक्ष्मः कालात्मिकां शक्तिमुदीरयानः उवास तस्मिन् सलिले पदे स्वे यथा नलो दारुणीरुद्धवीर्यः.
Just like the strength of fire within fuel wood, the Lord remained within the water of dissolution, submerging all the living entities in their subtle bodies. He lay in the self-invigorated energy called Kala.
चतुर्युगानां च सहस्रमप्सु स्वपन् स्वयोदीरितया स्वशक्त्या कालक्षया साधितकर्मतन्त्रो लोकानपि तान् ददृशे स्वदेहे.
The Lord lay down for 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas in his internal potency, and by his external energy, he appeared to be sleeping within the water. When the living entities were coming out for further development of their future activities, actuated by the energy called Kala Shakti, he saw his transcendental body as bluish.
तस्यार्थसूक्ष्माभिनिविष्टदृष्टेरन्तर्गतोऽर्थो रजसा तनीयान् गुणेन कालानुगतेन विद्धः शुष्यंस्तदाभिद्यता नाभिदेशात्.
The subtle subject matter of creation on which the Lord's attention was fixed was agitated by the material mode of passion, and thus the subtle form of creation pierced through his abdomen.
पद्मकोशः सः सोदातिष्ठत् कालेन कर्म प्रतिबोधनेन स्वरोचिषा तत्सलिलां विशालं विद्योतयन्नर्क इवात्मयोनिः.
Piercing through the sum total form of the fruitive activity of the living entities took the shape of the bud of a lotus flower generated from the personality of Vishnu, and by his supreme will it illuminated everything like the sun and dried up the vast waters of devastation.
तल्लोकपद्मां सौएव विष्णुः प्राविविशत् सर्वगुणावभासम् तस्मिन् स्वयं वेदमयो विधाता स्वयंभुवं यं स्म वदन्ति सोऽभूत्.
Into that universal lotus flower, Lord Vishnu personally entered as the Supersoul, and when it was thus impregnated with all the modes of material nature, the personality of Vedic wisdom, whom we call the self-born, was generated.
तस्यां सचाम्भोरुहकर्णिकायाम् अवस्थितो लोकमपश्यमानः परिक्रमन् व्योम्नि विवृतनेत्रश्चत्वारि लेभे अनुदिशमुखानि.
Brahma, born out of the lotus flower, could not see the world, although he was situated in the world. He therefore circumambulated all of space, and while moving his eyes in all directions, he achieved 4 heads in terms of the 4 directions.
तस्माद्युगान्तश्वसनावघूर्णा जलोर्मिचक्रात् सलिलाद्विरुधम् उपाश्रितः कञ्जमूलोकतत्त्वम् नात्मानम् अद्धा विददादिदेवः.
Lord Brahma, situated in that lotus, could not perfectly understand the creation, the lotus, or himself. At the end of the millennium, the air of devastation began to move the water and the lotus in great circular waves. Hare Krishna, thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Hare Krishna, please forgive me for all my mistakes. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Purbasha Mataji and Ashwini Sachi Mataji. Very beautiful. Okay, thank you so much for nice recitations. Okay, and thank you so much all the devotees for kindly joining this evening to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, we shall enter into Srimad Bhagavatam with the Mangalacharan prayers. Okay. अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांशं श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश। हे कृष्ण करुणसिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौरङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिविकासस्वामिन् इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणि प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादि पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् शृणुतं स्वकथाः कृष्णः पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः हृद्यन्तस्त्वह्य भद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सतां नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी एते चां सकलाः पुंसः कृष्णस्तु भगवान् स्वयम् इन्द्रारिव्याकुलं लोकं मृडयन्ति युगे युगे इदं भागवतं नाम पुराणं ब्रह्मसंहितम् उत्तमश्लोकचरितं चकार भगवान् ऋषिः निःश्रेयसाय लोकस्य धन्यं स्वस्तयनं महान् कृष्णे स्वधामोपगतधर्मधर्मात्मकः खलु न सृषामेष पुराणार्कोऽधुनोदितः कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः नमः पङ्कजनाभाय नमः पङ्कजमालिने नमः पङ्कजनेत्राय नमस्ते पङ्कजाङ्ग्रये अथ विश्वेषु विश्वात्मन् विश्वमूर्ते स्वकेषु मे स्नेहपाशमिमं चिन्निधुं पाणिषु विष्णुषु त्वयि मेनन्यविषया मतिर्मधुपते सकृत् प्रतिमुद्वह तदद्ध गङ्गेव भूमुदन्वति श्रीकृष्ण कृष्ण सख विष्णु शिवानिधृग्राजन्यवंशदहनानपवर्गवीर्य गोविन्द गोद्विजसुराट्य हरावतार योगेश्वर किल गुरो भगवन् नमस्ते योगेश्वर किल गुरो भगवन् नमस्ते योगेश्वर किल गुरो भगवन् नमस्ते तुलयामलवेनापि न स्वर्गं न पुनर्भवं भगवत्सङ्गसङ्गस्य मत्यानां किमुता शिष्यः पुनश्च भूयात् भगवच्चनन्ते रतिः प्रसङ्गर्ष तदाश्रयेषु महस्तु यां यामुपयां सृष्टिं मैत्रस्तु सर्वत्र नमो द्विजेभ्यः ॐ नमो भगवते राधा गोविन्दाय नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनामिने गौरत्विषे नमः मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं श्रीकृष्णचैतन्यमीश्वरं श्रीचैतन्यप्रभुं वन्दे बालोऽपि यदनुग्रहात् तरे नानामतग्राह व्याप्तं सिद्धान्तसागरम् श्रीचैतन्यप्रभुं वन्दे यत्पादाश्रयवीर्यतः सङ्गृह्णाति आकरवातात् अज्ञः सिद्धान्तसन्मनीम् ॐ नमो भगवते राधा गोविन्दाय नमः हरे कृष्ण Okay, so thank you so much for kindly waiting. Okay, I shall share my screen. Okay, so we are in the Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto, chapter 8. So we are starting today. In the last session, it is summary of chapter 7, which is the questions by Vidura. He has asked so many questions to Maitreya Rishi, and Maitreya Rishi he was very pleased with Vidura, and he was starting to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam. So in the last session, so the last verse it was Sukadeva Goswami has mentioned Saitama Prushta Purana Kalpaha Kuru Pradhanena Muni Pradhanaha. So Vidura, he is the Kuru Pradhana, and whereas Maitreya is the Muni Pradhana. Muni, he is the greatest of the, he is the best of the Munis, Maitreya Rishi. And whereas Vidura, he is the Kuru Pradhanena, has born in the dynasty of Kurus. So he was questioned by Maitreya was questioned by this Vidura. Sayittamapushta Purana Kalpaha Kuru Pradhanena Muni Pradhanaha. Pravruddha Harsho Bhagavad Katayam Sanchodidastam Prahasan Ivaham. So then, as soon as Vidura inquired from Maitreya Rishi, he was very pleased. Pravruddha Harsho, he is ready to respond to Vidura's questions. Pravruddha Harsho Bhagavad Katayam, by speaking Bhagavad Kata. Sanchodidastam Prahasan Ivaham. With a simple, gentle smile, Prahasan Iva Aha, he is speaking. Sanchodidastam, he was inspired by the questions by Vidura. So in such a way, Sukadeva Goswami, he has concluded the questions by Vidura in the 7th chapter. And then in the 8th chapter, so now Maitreya Rishi is speaking to Vidura, describing the Bhagavad Katayam. So this chapter name is the manifestation of Brahma from Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu. So this chapter is very, very important, how the Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu, he lies in this universe, and from his navel, the lotus stem comes out, and the lotus flower, it blossoms, and where Brahma is sitting in between, and then he looks into 4 directions, and he will get the 4 faces, and he tries to find the source of the lotus flower, but he could not find. At that time, he hears the sound tapasya, and he goes back to his place and starts meditating on that tapa and the form of the Lord. And then after that, the Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu appears to Brahma, the gigantic form of the Lord, Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu, Ayatayamaha. It is occupying all the 3 planetary systems, that kind of form, and which is very beautifully described in this chapter. So, and of course it comes in the later sessions, but and after that, Brahma is going to offer his prayers to the Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu in the 9th chapter. So from here, the universal creation. So this is the universal creation. Before universal creation, Brahma needs to born out of the navel of Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu. So that is this chapter. So Maitreya Rishi, starting from there. So verse number 1. Maitreya Uvacham Satsevaniyo Batapurvamsho Yello Kapalo Bhagavad Pradhanaham Babu Videhadita Kittimalam Pade Pade Notanayasya Bhikshnam. So Satsevaniyo Batapurvamsho. Here Maitreya Rishi, he is speaking to Vidura. Satsevaniyaha, worthy to serve the pure devotees. Bata Puruvamsho, and Bata, oh certainly, Puruvamsha, the descendants of the king of Puru. So here all the Kuru dynasties, they are coming from the Pururava. Pururava is their ancestor. So, and here he is mentioning the King Puru, descendants of King Puru. Likewise, he is addressing Vidura like that. Satsevaniyo Bhatapurvamsho and Yellokapalo Bhagavad Pradhanaham, because Lokapalaha, the kings are Bhagavad Pradhanaha, chiefly devoted to the personality of Godhead. They're all devotees who are coming from that dynasty. They're all devotees of the Lord. They're not the impersonalist or just the yogis like that. They're all devotees of the Lord, completely, sir. Krishna Padanu Sevaya, just like a Yudhishthira as well. They're also Nispruhaha Sarvakamebhyaha Krishna Padanuseveya. They're all worshipping Krishna in the form of personality of Godhead. So chiefly devoted to the personality of Godhead. They're all devotees, not the yogis or impersonalists. Babuviteha Ajita Kirtimalam. Babuvita, so you are also born Iha in this dynasty. Ajita, the Lord who is unconquerable. Kirtimalam, chain of transcendental activities. Pade Pade, step by step. Nutanaya, see, becoming newer and newer. Abhikshnam, always. So, likewise, Maitreya Rishi is saying here, because whenever the devotees are engaged in the devotional service, they will see every day newer and newer. Because like Krishna's pastimes, though it appears the same, but they will see in new angles every day. That is the beauty of Krishna Katha. Satsevaniyo bhatapurvamsho ye lokapalo bhagut pradanaha babuviteha iha ajita kirtimalam pade pade notana yasya bhikshnam pade pade notani asya bhikshnam. The translation for this verse. The great sage Maitreya Muni said to Vidura, the royal dynasty of King Puru is worthy to serve the pure devotees because all the descendants of that family are devoted to the personality of Godhead. You are also born in that family, and it is wonderful that because of your attempt, the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are becoming newer and newer at every moment. Okay, so purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The great sage Maitreya thanked Vidura and praised him by reference to his family glories. The Puru dynasty was full of devotees of the personality of Godhead and was therefore glorious. So here, devotees are always glorified because they are in connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's like we see in our Guru Parampara, we always remember the Acharyas and Gurus, whoever is in connecting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they're always glorified. And here, Maitreya Rishi is glorifying the Puru Vamsha. Satsevaniyo Bhata Puru Vamsho. Because they were not attached to impersonal Brahman or to the localized Paramatma, but were directly attached to Bhagavan. Directly attached to Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. They were worthy to render service to the Lord and his pure devotees. So here, when we see some people are taking to the meditate on the impersonal Brahman, what it means to them. And within that, there are lineages. Again, when there is a impersonalism, again there is a guru and a disciple. There is a personality. How come a personally one person is taking another person as a guru? Individuality is there, but they are meditating on the impersonalism. So it is not tallying if we see in that connections. They are trying to concentrate on the impersonalism, whereas it is not like that in the devotional service. Everything is the individual. That Krishna has mentioned already in the Bhagavad Gita that, oh Arjuna, you exist in the before, I existed before, I remember everything, but you cannot remember. So likewise, but in your different bodies, the living entities, they take different bodies. And localized Paramatma. So this is the yogis who meditate on the super soul in the heart. They go to the secluded place and then they meditate on the four-handed form of the Lord. So they will go back to Vaikuntha Loka. That is but only one person. But the devotees who are meditating in the or who are engaged in the devotional service, they are among the society. And they also worship the deity form, and also they share the knowledge to everyone, they enlighten everyone, and then take so many other devotees along with them to the Vaikuntha planet. Such kind of devotees are very dear to the Lord. So here, all the kings in the Puru dynasty are the devotees of the Lord. They were worthy to render service to the Lord and his pure devotees. See? They were worthy to render service to the Lord and his pure devotees. And because Vidura was one of the descendants of that family, naturally he engaged in spreading wide the ever new glories of the Lord. So the devotees, they always wanted to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is um, that is how they take pleasure in glorifying the Lord. शृण्वन्ति गायन्ति गृह्णन्ति भिक्षुषः स्मरन्ति नन्दन्ति तवेहितं जनाः त एव पश्यन्ति अचिरेण तावकं भवप्रवाहो परमं पदाम्बुजं. Kunti Devi glorifies Krishna in such a way that devotees, they're always by singing Shrinvanti Gayanti, hearing Shrinvanti Gayanti, Grunanti Bhikshnashaha, Smaranti Nandanti, Tavehitam Janaha, by remembering Lord in so many ways, they take to the, by doing it automatically, they do not desire for the liberation separately. Automatically it will come. They simply engage in spreading the wide, ever new glories of the Lord. And here, Maitreya felt happy to have such a glorious company as Vidura. So this is very, very important. We need to have a proper companion so that the glories of the Lord will be expanded throughout. It will be revealed. Though all the scriptures, they have got glories of Krishna, but whenever the right person asking and when the right person is speaking, then everything will be revealed. And everyone will take the advantage of those knowledge. Like Srila Prabhupada, so this treasure is always there, but bringing out and showing to everyone and marketing it, then everyone will come and take it. If there is no proper marketing, it is always, treasure is always there, hidden. So here, he considered the company of Vidura most desirable because such association can accelerate one's dormant propensities for devotional service. So here, devotional service, it is always existing. For example, when Dhruv Maharaja was also explaining, he is Sanjivayati Akila Shakti Daraha Swadhamna. As soon as Dhruv Maharaj, he meditated, and then later on, the Lord, he was meditating on the Lord and in his heart. But the Lord disappeared from his heart and they appeared in the outside. At the time, Dhruv Maharaj immediately opened his eyes and seeing the Supreme Lord. And then he was just keeping his hands folded. Krutanjalim Brahmamayena Kambhana Paspashabhalam Krupaya Kapole. Then he wanted to glorify the Lord, but he could not. So understanding the Lord, what he did, Kambhana, by the conch shell, Paspashabalam Krupaya Kapole, he touched on the head of the Dhruv Maharaj, and then he started glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yontaha Pravishya Mama Vacham Imam Prasuptam Sanjaveti Akila Shakti Darha Swadamna. Oh, my dear Lord, you have entered into my words. Yuantaha Pravishya Mama Vacham Imam Prasuptam. They are all dormant, and you entered into my heart and consciousness and making me to speak. Sanjaveti. And this is the awakening the Sanjivati Akila Shakti Darha Swadamna, all kinds of the senses. Anyan Hasta Charna Twagadin, Hasta Charna Pad Twagadin, many of all the senses. Pranan, Tasmai, he offers his obeisances unto the Supreme Lord. Awakening, enlivening the senses, the dormant. This is the dormant propensities for the. So here, such association can accelerate one's dormant propensities for devotional service. So that is why we need the devotees association. One can easily go back to Godhead. That is Saiva Sadhushu Kruto Mokshadvaram Apavritam. This is Prasangamajaram Pasam Atmanaha Kavayo Viduhu Saiva Sadhushu Kruto Mokshadvaram Apavritam. Just by simply discussing Krishna Katha. But we need only company of the pure devotees. So likewise, Now Maitri, she is responding. Satsevaniyo bhatapurvamsho yellokapalo bhagat pradanaha. Bhavovita ihad ajita kirtimalam pade pade notani asya abhikshnam. So here again, yadyapi pashvagato rahogata. One of the shloka from the Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 10, where Krishna, once he returned from the Hastinapura to Dwaraka, his Krishna's wives, they're all yadyapi pashpato rahogataha tatapi tasyangrihim navam pade pade. There tatapi tasyangri yugam navam pade pade. They are seeing the lotus feet of Krishna very new again and again. Pade pade kavirameda tatpada chalapyashrihi na jahati karhechit. And they could not leave Krishna even for a single moment, because they are seeing in serving the Lord every time newer and newer experiences. That is the devotional service. It is always pade pade notani. Every moment it is new and new. Every moment newer and newer. It is understood only by the devotees of the Lord. Okay, so that is that verse. And then continuing to the next shloka. So here Maitreya Rishi is saying that, O Vidura, I'm going to speak this Bhagavatam to you, which is spoken to the great rishis before, and that it was also Bhagavatam is spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. So we have seen that the Chatushloki Bhagavata, the Lord spoke to Brahma, Brahma spoke to Narada, and then Narada he has spread further. That is one lineage, and other lineage is also coming here. The Bhagavatam spoken by the Lord Anantadeva to four Kumaras, and Kumaras they spoke to Sankhya Rishi. Sankhya Rishi he spoke to Parashara, and then from him this Vyasadev and Maitri Rishi they have heard. So that Maitri Rishi is going to speak later on. So now here he is saying in the second shloka that I'm going to speak this Bhagavatam, which will relieve one from the pains and pleasures of this material world. Soham dunam chulla sukaya bhukkam mahadgatanam viramaya tasya pravartaye bhagavatam puranam yadaha sakshat bhagwan rishibhyah. Soham dunam chulla sukaya bhukkam. Soham, it is so that aham, I, nrinam, of the human being. Soham nrinam kshula sukaya dukkam. It is a very little sukaya for happiness, dukkam, distress. Mahadgatanam viramaya tasya. Mahadgatanam, the great gatanam, entered into viramaya for mitigation. Tasya, his pravartate bhagavan puranam. Pravartate Bhagavatam Puranam. Pravartate in beginning, Bhagavatam, the Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam, Vedic supplement. Yadaha Sakshat Bhagavan Rishibhyaha. Yadaha Sakshat. That which it was said, Sakshat directly, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Rishibhyaha, onto the sages. There are many things in terms of the whenever the Lord spoke directly to Brahma, and also Narayana Rishi also spoke to Narada Rishi later on in a different conversations. But here again, Anantadeva spoke to four Kumaras, and that lineage coming down to Maitreya Rishi. So that he's saying, Maitreya is saying, I am going to speak that Bhagavatam, which is Yadaha Sakshat Bhagavan Rishibhyaha, that was spoken by the Lord himself itself. Soham runam chulla sukaya dhukkam mahadgatanam viramaya tasya pravartate bhagavatam puranam yadaha sakshat bhagavan rishibhyah. So translation for this verse. Let me now begin speaking on the Bhagavata Purana, which was directly spoken to the great sages by the personality of Godhead. for the benefit of those who are entangled in extreme miseries for the sake of very little pleasure. For the sake of very little pleasure. Okay, so purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So the sage Maitreya proposed to speak on Srimad Bhagavatam because it was especially compiled and traditionally comes down in the disciplic succession for the solution of all the problems of human society. See, this is the all problems. So Bhagavatam is answer to all questions. The way of Bhagavatam is the way of life. So now, as soon as Vidura inquired so many questions, now Maitreya now he is proposing to speak on Bhagavatam. It is the solution for all the problems of human society and comes down in disciplic succession. Evam parampara praptum imam rajashayo viduhu. So that knowledge, evam parampara praptum, and it is solutions for all problems. See, but people they do not take. Okay, so only one who is fortunate can have the opportunity to hear Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of the pure devotees of the Lord. See, this is again glorifying who is fortunate. Who is fortunate can have the opportunity to hear Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of pure devotees of the Lord. Under the spell of material energy, the living entities are entrapped in the bondage of many difficulties simply for the sake of a little bit of material happiness. This is kama sukha lesha lavaya dhena lobha vibhota mansu akushilani shashvat. So Brahma, he pray in his prayers that comes in the later on, but he says that tavat bhayam dravina deha suhur nimittam shokah spruha paribhavo vipulasya lobha tavan mameti asad avagraha ati moolam yavannate ingrim abhyam pravnita lokaha. Daivenate Hatadeyo Bhavat. He glorifies that one and then saying that people for the lake Kama Sukha Lesa Lavaya Dena Lobha Vibhota Manaso Akushilani Shashvat. For the little bit of material happiness, they will put the stake of this valuable human life which can give the eternal happiness. See, that is, we cannot put for a small thing, for 1 penny or 2 pennies, stake gamble. I cannot put the millions and trillions of pounds as a stake. That is a foolishness. See, this is but under the spell of material energy, the living entities are trapped in the bondage of family, bondage of many difficulties, simply for the sake of a little bit of material happiness. So that is if we see the eternity of the soul, it is unlimited, but the human life is very valuable, where we can elevate ourselves onto the transcendental platform, go back to Godhead. But if we use it for material happiness, what happens? It is explaining here. They engage in the fruitive activities, not knowing the implications. Because when they are engaged in the fruitive activities, without knowing to us, all our time will be automatically drained out by the sunrise and sunset. And by the time, in due course of time, we see the death. So under the false impression that the body is the self, the living entity is foolishly related to so many false attachments. See, this is yed adhruvani dehasya. Adhruvani, it is the very temporary. Dehasya, the body, and all the anubandhasya, dhurmatihi, all the related to the body. He thinks dhruvani manyate mohant graha kshetra vasunicha, a home and also the land, everything as a permanent. Dhruvani manyate, he thinks that it is the permanent. Mohat, by the illusion. This is the foolishness. This is the false impression. So they think that they can engage with materialistic paraphernalia forever. This is Dehapatya Kaltradishu, Atma Sainyashu, Asaswapi, Asat. It is the temporary, it is not permanent. Asaswapi. That's why Tesham Pramatto Nidhanam Pasyadnapi Napasyati. So that's why even though in front of him, so many people are taking birth and so many people are dying, but he is Tesham Pramattaha. So he is not giving attention to such kind of activities. So they engage with the materialistic paraphernalia forever, keep on doing it. I want to work, I earn money, put in the bank balance, and then I can live and happy. So live merrily and happily like that. I can enjoy. That is the materialistic people, but they don't see their life and energy, time, everything is being robbed by sunrise and sunset. Ayur hariti vaipumsam udhyannastam chennasau Tasyadhyat Chinonita Uttama Shloka Vartaya. Except the devotees of the Lord, everyone's life is being reduced. So, this gross conception of life is so strong that a person suffers continually life after life under the external energy of the Lord. This is under external energy of the Lord. Yeah, this is Yavat Pradakum Idmatman Indriyardha Maya Balam Bhagavato Janisha Pasye Tavanna Samsiti Rasu Prisankameta Vyadhapi Dukka Nivadam Vahati Kriyardha. They always engage themselves just like that. This is Samsati, again life after life by the external energy of the Lord. So what is the external energy? Whatever we are seeing, Bhumira Punalo Vayu Kammano Buddhirevacha Ahankar Iti Yame Bhinna Prakriti Rastada. That Bhinna Prakriti is the external energy which we can see and perceive through the senses. So if one comes in contact with the book Bhagavatam as well as with the devotee Bhagavata, who knows that? Who knows what the Bhagavatam is? Then such a fortunate man gets out of the material entanglement. This is very, very important. He will get out of the material entanglement. Though he is in the human body, he will be free from the sense perception, sense objectives. Indriyani indriyabdebhyah tasya prajna pratisidaha. So here, Krishna also give analogy that kurmonganiva, just like a turtle, whenever turtle, it has got the hands, legs, and then tail. Whenever it sees the danger, immediately it takes all his limbs inside the shell and it will protect itself. But that does not mean it does not have limbs. Still, it has got limbs, but it has taken inside. So similarly, a devotee is, they do not engage their senses in the sense gratifications, though they use those senses only for the livelihood as much as needed, not for the sense gratification. If sense gratification, it will put them into the material entanglement. That knowledge how to detach such kind of senses from the sense objectives, one has to hear Bhagavatam. One has to come in contact with Bhagavatam or devotee Bhagavata, book Bhagavata or devotee Bhagavata. Therefore, Sri Maitreya Muni, out of compassion for the suffering men in the world, proposes to speak on the Srimad Bhagavatam first and last. Say, there is no other way, only Bhagavatam is the only way. This is the first and last. So that is likewise. Soham Dunam Chulla Sukaya Dukam Madgatanam Viramaya Tasya Pravartaye Bhagavatam Puranam Yadaha Sakchat Bhagavan Rishibhyaha. This Bhagavatam spoken directly by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to Brahma. Idam Bhagavatam Nam Puranam Brahma Samhitam Brahmane Bhagat Proktam Brahma Kalpa Upagate. In the Brahma Kalpa, whenever the Brahma appeared, at that time the Lord spoke to Brahma directly. Okay, so that is this verse. And giving only Bhagavatam is the way of life. Prabhupada is describing here. Okay, that is from this verse. And then we continue to the next verse. So here, starting from the once upon a time. So this is what Maitreya is speaking, once upon a time. So once upon a time, the four Kumaras, they have asked this kind of similar kind of questions that Vidura has asked to the Sankashana. Sankarsana is the Shesha, or the Lord is always lying on the Shesha. So he has got a very beautiful form as well, and who is always accompanying the Lord whenever the Lord appears. He is like a Balaram or the Lakshmana or Nityananda Prabhu, accompanying to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lakshmana accompanying Ramachandra, and Baladeva accompanying Krishna. Likewise, um, Sankarsana is always with the Lord. That Sankarsana, he has answered this Bhagavatam to the four Kumaras. That Maitreyi is saying to Vidurana. आसीनं मुर्व्यं भगवन्तमाद्यं सङ्कर्षणं देवम् अकुण्ठसत्त्वं विवत्सवस्तत्त्वमतः परस्य कुमारमुख्या मुनयो अन्वपृच्छन्. Kumaramukya Munayo Anvapruchan. Kumaramukya, the four Kumaras, Munayo Anvapruchan, they have inquired just like Vidura. Asinam Murivyam Bhagavanta Madhyam. Asinam Murivyam. And whenever Sankarsana he is seated Murivyam in the bottom of the universe. We know he is carrying this universe on top of his head, just like a mustard seed on top of the hoods of Ananta Sesha. Atinam Guryam Bhagavantam Adyam, Bhagavantam unto the Lord Adyam, the original. Asinam Guryam. So whenever the Lord Ananta, who is that? Sankarshanam Devam Akunta Sattvam. Sankarshanam. Sankarshana Devam, the personality of Godhead, Akunta Sattvam, undeterred knowledge. So he is always accompanying the Lord. So he is always glorifying the Lord for time immemorial, but still he could not complete the glories of the Lord. That also we have seen in the second canto, chapter 7 and verse number 41 or something like that. So it's from the time immemorial, but he has got all the knowledge, undeterred knowledge. Akunta Sattvam. Asinam Muryam Bhagavantamadhyam Sankashanam Devam Akunta Sattvam. Vivitsavaha Tattvam Atah Parasya. So Vivitsavaha, being inquisitive to know Tattvam Ataha, truth like this. So here Vidura wanted to know about the universe and how it got created and everything else. So now similarly Kumaras also wanted to know, just like Vidura is inquiring, Vivitsavaha Tattvam Ataha Parasya, regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the main ingredient. Whatever the verse we take, the shloka we take, we have to see the Parasya, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vivutsavaha tattvam atah parasya kumara mukyaha munayo anvapruchan. And the Kumaras, the boy saints, Kumara means he is one who is not married or young. Kumara, the boy saints, mukyaha, headed by Munayaha, the great sages, anvapruchan, inquired like this. Asin muryam bhagavantamadhyam sankashanam devam akunta sattvam vivutsavaha tattvam atah parasya kumara mukyaha munayaha anvapruchan. So translation for this verse. So Maitreyi says that some time ago, being inquisitive to know, Sanat Kumara, the chief of the boy saints, accompanied by other great sages, inquired exactly like you, O Vidura, about the truth regarding Vasudeva, the supreme from Lord Sankarsana, who is seated at the bottom of the universe. Lord Sankarsana, who is seated at the bottom of the universe. This one we see, there is a 4-minute video in the YouTube, that is the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. And if you see in that video, Sankarsana is trying to, he is sitting there and then speaking Bhagavatam to the four Kumaras. So this is the shloka to address that picture. Okay, so purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is in clarification of the statement that the Lord spoke directly on the Srimad Bhagavatam. When and unto whom Bhagavatam was spoken is explained herewith. Questions similar to those put forward by Vidura were asked by great sages like Sanat Kumara and Lord Sankashana. The plenary expansion of the Supreme Lord Vasudeva answered them. So this is the another lineage. So Bhagavatam spoke by the Lord unto Brahma, that is the Brahmane Bhagat Proktam Brahmakalp Upagate. That is one lineage. And here Lord Sankashana, who is always knowing the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his pastimes, he spoke Bhagavatam to the four Kumaras when the four Kumaras inquired from Sankashana. Okay, so due to time, we shall continue to the next verse. So at that time, whenever the four Kumaras they are inquiring uh, uh, from the Sankashana, so here, what is the position of the Sankashana? How he was sitting in his position, and how he was in his meditation, how he opened his eyes a little partially and spoke Bhagavatam. In such a way, the position of Sankashana is being described here. स्वमेव देष्ण्यं बहुमानयन्तं यद्वासुदेव अभिदम् आमनन्ति प्रत्यग्धृत अक्ष अम्भुजकोशमीषद् उन्मीलयन्तं विबुधोदयाय स्वम् एव दिष्ण्यं बहुमानयन्तं. So here swam eva disnyam, he was situated, Sankashna is situated swam eva disnyam bahumanayantam, he is greatly manayantam, esteemed position, manayantam. Yadvasudeva abidam amanante, Yadvasudeva, that which Vasudeva, Lord Vasudeva, abidam, by the name, amanante, acknowledge. Pratyak Dhritak Aksha, eyes settled for introspection. Eyes settled for the introspection. So introspection is always keeping himself in the samadhi, connecting with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pratyak Dhrita Aksha Ambhuja Kosham, lotus-like eyes, comparing even the Lord Ananta's eyes like a lotus petal eyes. Ambhuja Kosham eyes. And Ishat, he was slightly Unmelayantam, and he just little bit opened. So this is the position of a yogi who has to meditate. He should not close completely, he should not open completely. He has to open a little bit. This is the Unmelayantam Vibudodayaya, Vibuddha of the great learned sages, Udayaya, for the sake of advancement. So just only half closed eyes. So generally we see Lord Shiva, he is meditating always on the Supreme Lord, unto Krishna, with only half closed eyes. That we most frequently see such kind of pictures. Here, Anantadeva is also like that. Of course, Lord Shiva, he is worshipping the Anantadeva. So he is in that position. Now we see his master is the Anantadeva. Lord Shiva, he is in the Ilavrta Varsha, he is worshipping Anantadeva. At the end of the annihilation of, at the end of the millennium, he dances. He always meditating on the Sankarsana. He worships Sankarsana. Okay, so here the Sankarsana is in that only half closed eyes. He opened little bit and also to speak for the sake of advancement of the great sages. Swamev Dishnam Bahumanayantam Yadvasudeva Abhidam Amanante Pratyak Dhruta Aksha Ambhuta Koshamishad Unmelayantam Vibudodhayaya. Okay, translation for this verse. So at that time, Lord Sankarsana was meditating upon his Supreme Lord, whom the learned esteem as Lord Vasudeva. But for the sake of advancement of the great learned sages, he slightly opened his lotus-like eyes and began to speak. He began to speak. Okay, so that there is no purport for this verse. So we shall move on to the next shloka as well. Now the question is, so Sankarsana is speaking to 4 Kumaras. And how come Kumaras went to that place where Lord Sankarsana is there? That one he is answering to, Maitri Rishi is answering to Vidura now. So we know that this is Ganga river. It is flowing from the throughout the universe. Ganga river flows from the throughout the universe, from the upper planetary systems, middle planetary system. In the upper planetary systems, it is called Mandakini. In our earth, it is called Ganga. In the lower planetary systems like Patal Loka, it is called Bhogavati. In the spiritual world, it is Viraja river. So it is flowing, it is everywhere. It is worshipable to everyone. And here, the 4 Kumaras, they're all in the upper planetary systems. Taking the advantage of this Ganga river, they take a dip in the Ganga river in the upper planetary systems and coming out of the Ganga river near to the in front of the Sankarsana. So that is how Maitreya is saying here. And the Sankarsana is worshipped by the daughters of the serpent king. So at that with a different paraphernalia. So just kind of giving how the Lord Sankarsana is there. He is worshipped by so many other Nagas. So likewise Maitreya is saying, so in the 5th shloka, स्वर्धिनि उदाद्रैः स्वजटाकलापैः उपस्पृशन्तचरणोपधानम् पद्मं यदच्यन्ति अहिराजकन्याः सप्रेम नानबलिभिः वरार्धाः Swadhini Adreihi. Swadhuni is by the waters of the Ganges, Adreihi being moistened. Swadhini Uda Adreihi. So moistened by the Ganges water. Swajata Kalapaihi. Swajata, a bunch of haze. Kalapaihi, situated on the head. Swajata Kalapaihi. Upashpusantaha Charnopadhanam. By so touching, upasprishantaha, by so touching, charanopadhanam, charana upadhanam, the shelter of his feet. Charanopadhanam, padmam, the lotus shelter, the shelter, that which, yet achanti ahiraja kanyaha, that feet of the Sankarsana, archanti, worships, ahiraja kanyaha. Ahiraja is the serpent king, kanyaha, the daughters. Saprema nana balibihi. Saprema is with great devotion. Nana various. Balibihi paraphernalia. Vara addaha being desire of husbands. Vara addaha. So Sankarsana is being worshipped by the daughters of the serpent king. So they wanted to desire to have good husbands. So that Sankarsana is in that meditation posture. He has a little bit opened his eyes whenever the Kumaras came to Sankarsana. By taking advantage of the Ganga river, they took a dip in the waters in the upper planetary systems and coming down to Sankarsana there. Swadhuni Udadraihi Swajata Kalapaihi उपस्पृशन्ति चरणोपधानं पद्मं यदच्चिन्त्य अहिराजकन्याः सप्रेमनाना बलिभिः वरार्धाः. The translation for this verse. The sages came from the highest planets down to the lower region through the water of the Ganges, and therefore the hair on their heads was wet. They touched the lotus feet of the Lord, which are worshipped with various paraphernalia by the daughters of the serpent king when they desire good husbands. And purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Ganges water flows directly from the lotus feet of Vishnu, and its course runs from the highest planet of the universe down to the lowest. The sages came down from Satyaloka by taking advantage of the flowing water, a process of transportation made possible by the power of mystic yoga. If a river flows thousands and thousands of miles, a perfect yogi can at once transport himself from one place to another simply by dipping in its water. The Ganges is the only celestial river which flows throughout the universe, and the great sages travel all over the universe via sacred river. The statement that their hair was wet indicates that it was directly moistened by the water originating from the lotus feet of Vishnu, Ganges. Whoever touches the water of the Ganges to his head surely touches the lotus feet of the Lord directly and can become free from all effects of sinful acts. If after taking a bath in the Ganges or being washed of all sins, a man got himself against committing further sinful acts, then certainly he is delivered. But if again takes up sinful activities, his bath in the Ganges is as good as that of the elephant who nicely takes bath in a river, but later spoils the whole thing by covering himself with the dust on the land. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So here, this is very important thing. So during in the recently, I have gone to the Kumbh Mela, Mahakumbh Mela as well. I also went to that water and took a dip in the waters. I also felt the same thing like Prabhupada is mentioning. So Ganges water flows directly from the lotus feet of Krishna, and it course runs from the highest planet of the universe down to the lowest. So here, the sages took that advantage, and Prabhupada is mentioning transportation made possible by the power of mystic yoga. It's because Ganges River, it flows throughout the universe, spiritual and the material worlds. That's why many people are worshipping Ganga River, so sacred river. And here again says, Prabhupada says, a perfect yogi can at once transport himself from one place to another simply by dipping in its water. If it is flowing thousands of miles, so here, taking a dip in the Ganga water, he can directly go to spiritual world. See, that is the way, but secret. But people, so many people, they will come and take the bath in the Ganga. Of course, they will get somewhere or other purified, but as long as if they do not commit sinful activities again. And Prabhupada says, this is the only, Ganges river is the only celestial river which flows throughout the universe. Throughout the universe. And the great sages travel all over the universe via the sacred river. So that is again, because they are taking dip in the waters, their hair was moistened by the water. And as soon as that water touches anyone, they'll be purified, surely. That Prabhupada is mentioning. Surely touches the lotus feet of the Lord, because this is also mentioned in the first canto, chapter 19, verse number 6. Yavai lasat Shri Tulasi Vimishra Krishnangri Renum Abhidikambunetri Punati Lokan Ubhyatra Saishan Kastam Nasaveta Marishyamanaha. The Ganges river flows from the feet of Krishna, Krishnangri Renum Abhidikambunetri, by mix up with the dust of Krishna's feet, and also the Tulsi leaves. Yahweh lasat Shri Tulasi Vimishra, mixing Tulsi leaves, dust of Krishna's feet, and then flows from the spiritual world. And what it does? Punati Lokan Ubhayatra Saishan. It purifies all the planetary systems, upper and bottom planetary system, including Sa Ishan, Lord Shiva. Kastam Nasaveta Marishyamanaha, who will not take shelter of that Ganges river to purify himself. So that is what it was also described previously when Parikshit Maharaj was taking shelter of Ganges river, sitting there for the Prayopavesha. So here, whoever touches the water of the Ganges, they will be surely free from all effects of the sinful acts. If after taking a bath in the Ganges or being washed of all sins, a man guards himself against committing for the sinful acts, it must be there. Otherwise, it is just like a elephant bath. So here again, better than the Ganges is the pure devotees of the Lord. Today also there is one of the messages being shared. Because yatpada samsaryaha sota munayah prasamayanaha sadyah punanti upaspustaha swadhunyapo anusevaya. Swadhuni. Swadhuni is the Ganges river. Swadhunyapo anusevaya. One can get liberation whenever he is rendering service unto the Ganga for a considerable amount of time. But if he comes to the pure devotee of the Lord, sadyah punanti upaspustaha, he is very quickly purified because he speaks Bhagavatam about the Supreme Lord and his pastimes in such a way. Initially, in the beginning, Saunakati sages are glorifying Soto Goswami to speak Bhagavatam. So that is Sajjah Punanti Upasprushtaha Yatpal Samsayaha Sota Munayaha Prashamayanaha Sajjah Punanti Upasprushtaha Swadhunyapo Anusevaya. So pure devotees are more powerful than Ganga river. That Prabhupada was mentioning in that message that was shared among the groups. Otherwise, once he takes, we have seen so many people in the Kumbh Mela. When I have gone to the Kumbh Mela, many people are coming. The flow of people, it is immeasurable. Coming and taking bath and going, again coming and going, and some people are staying there for there. Some of them they are doing the Kalpavasa as well. Kalpavasa is the period of 30 days. They take early morning, worship Tulsi Maharani, and then go and take a dip in the Ganga river and coming back home. And then likewise they do for 1 month. That is the Kalpavasaha. But what they do after that, throughout the day, they don't know what to do. They simply sit because they don't have knowledge of Bhagavatam and Krishna. They only take the shelter of Ganga river. So there again in the Gokotidana Grahane Kagasya Prayaga Gangodaka Kalpavasaha Yajnaita Meru Suvarnadhanam Govindanamaihi Nasamam Shata Amshaihi Nasamam Sata Amshaihi Satamshaihi. It is taking such kind of activities, giving donation of so many millions of cows, Gokotidana Grahane Kagasya, during the solar eclipse or moon eclipse, in that particular period, in that particular places, or Prayaga Gangodaka Kalpavasaha. If one is taking Kalpavasa, following all these things, Kalpavasaha, 1 month of time, and after that, Yajnaita Meri Suvarnadhanam. If one is performing so many sacrifices and giving charity, that like a Meru mountain, Govindanamai Nasamam Sitamshaihi, all these three kinds of greatest activities, they do not even equal to the 1/100 part of the Govinda Nama. That's why Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. We know that power of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and always chant. But people, they take to such kind of activities, but they do not know that to chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So that is Nasamam Shatamshaihi. It is not even comparable, even 100 part of the Govinda Nama. Again, this is if people they come again into the art society and try to make live like as usual before, then it is just like a elephant. See, elephant bath, who nicely takes his bath in the river, but later spoils the whole thing by covering himself with the dust on the land. By the ordinary activities in the society, one will be again contaminated. So that's why devotees association is very important. Okay, so that I stop there and I request dear devotees, if you have got any questions, kindly ask, or if you wanted to share anything on this, kindly share. Hare Krishna. It's 5 slokas, but covering this one and many of these purports and it takes much of time and occupying it, and also to share some of it, it takes all of the time. Okay, so I request dear devotees, if you have got any questions or to share anything, kindly share or kindly ask. Hare Krishna. Okay, if there are no questions, no sharings, then we shall conclude our session for tonight. Okay, so vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti vaishnavvrinda ki jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Thank you, Prabhuji. Nice class. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. It was a very nice class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.